My thoughts on the draft. So in the past, the draft has kind of been consistent, right? With the teams, with the number of players that are getting drafted. Speaking of college potential, and speaking of college players, and speaking of top tier draft eligible players that are coming into the draft, they looked a certain way. I don't think anybody can disagree with that. But I'm going to read some names to you, man. Fernando Mendoza, Caleb Downs, Arvell Reese, Kenyon Sadiq, Sonny Styles, Carnell Tate, Omar Cooper Jr., Dylan Thinneman. I just gave you about 8 players, okay? A fourth of the opportunity of players to be drafted in the first round because you have 32 picks, not 32 teams. I'm going to get to that in a little bit because every team doesn't have a first-round pick. I just gave you 8 players projected to go in the first round, all of them coming out of the Big Ten. That's different. The Big Ten has won 3 straight national championships in college football. That's different. So to me, this is intriguing because you've seen the ebbs and flows of college football over the years, but there's been a constant in the SEC, and now you see the Big Ten being that team now, being that conference. A lot of these times, a lot of people look at the quarterback position and they say, hey, I'm going to take a kid that has a lot of potential, as opposed to a kid that has, or a young man that has a lot of what? Adversity that he's been through because he's played a lot. He's got a lot of experience. And I see this throughout the Big Ten, not just at the quarterback spot, but at safety. Look at Caleb Downs. Played at Alabama and Ohio State for 3 years, played at a high level, and even starting as a freshman was a quarterback of a defense that made a college football playoff. So the experience throughout the duration of this draft is what I'm going to be looking at because a lot of people look at this draft and they say it's not a lot of high-end, top-tier talent draft. I don't necessarily believe that. I just believe that it's more on the defensive side of the football. I'm not just focused on the quarterback. I'm not even just focused on skill position players. I just think that you're in a position this year where you're going to have to be very, very good as a GM. You're going to have to be very, very good as a front office and understand what you want. Ernest, my director, and I were talking about this earlier this week, how this is a best player available draft. I think there are a lot of teams that are in position to be builders and a lot of teams that are in position to be bulkers. Like I look at the Miami Dolphins. They're a builder, right? They've got 11 picks in the draft this year. The Cleveland Browns are builders. Even though I think they nailed it in the draft last year, they've got an opportunity to come into their draft and continue to build because they have very good players. And now they've got a new coaching staff. So there may be a core being built in Cleveland that you're not paying attention to. And the Tennessee Titans are in build mode. I think they've got 9 draft picks as well. So those are the teams I consider in build mode. The teams in bulk mode mean these teams are already contenders. These teams are already put together, but they're trying to just fill in specific spots. It's kind of like they're using the draft like college football teams use the transfer portal when they've still got 15 elite athletes on their team and they're still trying to just cherry pick what they need, like the Ravens. Even though they missed the playoffs, don't get it twisted, the Ravens are in bulk mode. The LA Rams, okay, a quarter away from making the Super Bowl, with their MVP quarterback in Matthew Stafford. They're in bulk mode. The Houston Texans are in bulk mode, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And there are a couple other programs in that same vein as well. As you can see, my team has put up the draft order going into 2026. And again, trades will happen undoubtedly. I'm not projecting any trades. I just want you to see what the draft order looks like. But another thing that I really want to pay attention to here is I want to pay attention to the teams that have multiple picks in the first round. Because the Jets have 2 picks, the 2nd and the 16th pick. The Cleveland Browns have the 6th and the 24th pick. The Kansas City Chiefs, which I'm going to highlight here, have the 9th and the 29th picks. The Dolphins, like I said, they've got 9 picks overall, and they've got 11 and 30 in the first round. And then the Cowboys have the 12th and the 20th pick. The Browns, the Chiefs, and the Cowboys, in my opinion, going into 2026, will be playoff contenders. I think it goes without saying what Kansas City has done and what we'll do moving forward in my estimation. But I think Dallas is a team that's not that far off, nor is Cleveland. And I think for different reasons. I think the Dallas Cowboys have really addressed their defensive line. If everybody want to throw back at me, hey, Micah Parsons, they traded Micah Parsons, I understand that. They got rid of Micah Parsons because they got rid of that contract. And they're trying to build on that defensive line and being able to stop the run. I understand the process. I understand the vision. I understand what they're trying to do. Now, whether it works out or not is a different story, but moving into 2026, you can't really say that Green Bay got the better part of that deal. Green Bay lost in the playoffs in a game that I know those fans want to forget. Micah Parsons didn't make it through the end of the season because he wasn't healthy. So those are things that we're looking at, but I'm interested to see what these teams with multiple picks do in the first round because this is a league of leverage. This is a league of opportunity. And if you're trying to build your team, you could build it through the draft, or you can use those draft picks to leverage an opportunity to go get a guy who is a veteran that you want to trade for. Specifically the Chiefs here. I think the Chiefs are going to use both of these picks. I think the Chiefs are very well run. I think the Chiefs are an organization that understand they have needs. Remember, Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson are no longer on their roster. They're in L.A. playing for the Rams now. I think they're going to have to replace somebody at corner. Guys like Colton Hood out of Tennessee would be a very good fit for the Kansas City Chiefs. But don't be surprised if they take a receiver at 9. I think I said this before on social media, and I think people kind of didn't think that they should go get a lineman. They think they need to go get somebody on the offensive line or go get somebody on the defensive line. I think they will do that, but I also think they can do that in the later rounds. And by later, I mean second, third, or fourth rounds. Because I think what you want in the first round is you want impact players. See, quarterbacks taken in the first round, guys, are supposed to be changers of the organization, game changers, okay, decade changers. That's why people take quarterbacks in the first round. Typically, you take a non-quarterback in the first round because you want him to be a season changer. You want him to put you in position to where for this season and maybe the next 10 years, we've got a solid player who can make a couple of All-Pros or help us win a Super Bowl. But you're not necessarily asking that guy to change the organization. So the Chiefs already have an organization changer, obviously, in Patrick Mahomes, but now in their position to address needs like wide receiver and DB or O-line and defensive lineman. So I think they can get the best player available, and they can get a need in the same pick or in both picks in 2026 in the first round. But that's what intrigues me, because the Jets are a team that have been defensive-minded for so long. And now they've got Aaron Glenn as their head coach, and they're still going to be defensive-minded. And the funny thing about it is defense was never the issue with the New York Jets. They just didn't get the quarterback position right. But now they brought in Geno Smith to span the tide. I'm interested in seeing if they'll take a quarterback, because they've got backups on their roster that are undoubtedly not quarterbacks of the future. So that's what intrigues me moving forward into the 2026 draft. The teams that have multiple picks in the first round, I'm looking at how many Big Ten players are going to be taken in the first round, because they seem to have taken over the SEC in that regard. And I'm interested to see on the teams that are in build mode and bulk mode what routes they take and how they're trying to move forward into the 2026 season.